Welcome back in to the Long Shot Podcast, here with NBA All-Star,
NBA champion,
former first-round pick,
Big East Player of the Year.
Yeah,
Let's keep rattling them off.
We could run them. We can run them off.
What else
for
we
days. Welcome, CB. Now, obviously, a coach of mine and mentor of mine. Thank you for joining us out here in Las Vegas, man. I know you got plenty going on, so thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Thanks for just allowing me to be on this platform. I'm about to take you on the road with me with that introduction, too.
We tag team that one. I mean, it's easy when you got the accolades that you do. But obviously, drafted by the Heat back in the day. Not that you're that old, but
I am.
No. Come on, I'm not going to do that to you. Since now rejoining the organization as a coach, talk a little bit about how you've seen the culture kind of change or stay the same from your early days playing to now pushing the culture as a part of the staff.
Well, that's a great question. And when I first started, myself being drafted, Caron Butler, God rest his soul, Eddie Jones was our vets, Alonzo Mourning. You had a young Udonis Haslem, young D. Wade as rookies coming in as well. But my rookie season, it was just like, what are we?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we're hard working. Now you fast forward to where we're at now. We're the hardest working, best conditioned. The list goes on.
Yeah.
But then no banners, in competition with every sport, predominantly, especially football, in the state of Florida. So it was just like one of those things where we was just trying to navigate through that process. And the expectations was always now be professional, be sharp, have a championship vision. And we didn't even know what that looked like. But we had the godfather of the game leading us in that direction and teaching us in real time. So it was just like, damn, I don't know what I should be doing, but I just know I'm going to be doing this shit hard.
Yeah. I mean, winning obviously validates all of that, right? Because
Absolutely.
Now it's easier to say when you put on a Heat uniform, all right, there have been champions that done what we're asking you to do right now. At that point, obviously Pat had the legacy that he had prior to when he got there. But as a young player stepping into the league, and you're in Miami, an organization that doesn't have a lot of history, but Pat trying to basically put his fingerprints on the organization and have the organization be something bigger than what it was at the moment. I mean, that's a lot of responsibility for, a kid just getting drafted, after your sophomore year? Yeah.
We literally broke ground, like, in downtown. When you talk about the museums, when you talk about all the buildings, when you see everything. And I felt like the same way with the organization when you talk about the culture really starting. Like, we broke ground on that shit.
Yeah.
Like, just doing it, and we was hopeful, and we had a vision that Pat had. We just knew we had to follow his footprint. Like, we knew we had to just follow, like, whatever he told us, his direction, his vision, what he's seen. But like you said, with no banners, with no anything in the air, it was just like, damn, we putting a lot of hope and faith in this process, but I never doubted it, not one bit.
Yeah, you were obviously, when you were at your best, one of the best players in the league. I'm always curious talking to players that were really good players that go on to be coaches. How are you able to, like, relay information to players, given that, I'm not saying it came easy to you, but you had, like, this insane talent and ability. And, like, for example, someone like me, like, I can't go get a bucket like a young CB, right? So,
you
like,
get it though. You get to it.
I mean, I get to it.
Nonchalant. He get to it though.
Yeah. I find my own lane. But as a coach, right? Because this is really your first opportunity coaching, and you're doing it at such a high level. You have the wisdom of playing in this league and the built-in credibility of being the player that you were. But how do you relay all that you experienced and all that you learned playing to the players that you're now asked to mentor and lead?
That's another great question. I think that it really goes back to your why. Coach Spo always talks about that.
Yeah.
And I think that from a mentorship standpoint, I've been doing that my entire life. So you recognize that the personalities that you deal with are different. Everybody don't come from the same walk of life from you. It's just, it is what it is. So you just try to, it's crazy how you have to keep yourself in it, in the process, but remove yourself out the process. Does that make any sense? So, like, in order for me to help him, I have to be vulnerable in helping him, and I have to find what's his why. And what's get Duncan going? Like, how do we get Duncan going? How did we get him going off his right to the, the pocket pass? How do we get him airspace? How do we free one of the best shooters in this game up? And those are the conversations that I have, and I think of little ways and little things just to say to him in real time in the pulse of the game where it just like registers. Like, and I know you get frustrated sometimes, but like he's with me. He's like, thank you, appreciate it. And that's how I register with our players. It's a tough thing to juggle, but it takes a lot of thought and a lot of humbleness to get to that space.
And that comes with what? That comes with experience, because you saw so many different locker rooms, so many different teams in your time in the league. That's something you just accrue over those years to then share?
I think it's also the way that I would have want to be coached. Like I think about myself, like you remove yourself out of it, but then you actually put yourself in it. It's like if I had clarity with a mentor or someone that's giving me direction, that would be helpful. Like, don't treat me like you treat him or that guy, like treat me like you treat me. And I think that connection is extremely important.
Was there a particular team or a year that when you look back on really helped you grow as a player, person, whether it be a particular coach or a teammate, or maybe just an experience of being humbled or something along those lines?
So I'm gonna give you a great example. Like you said, playing at a high level, being in Washington, best years of my career individually. But when I knew that at some point I wanted to be a coach and I wanted to be on the sideline teaching the game was when I got hurt in 2011. This is our championship run. Second leading scorer on the Dallas Mavericks team. I go down, patella rupture. Never thought I'd play the game of basketball again. So like immediately you think, how do you have an impact on winning without being on the fucking court? And it's just like, all right, how can I pour life and energy into all my brothers right here and stay committed to the process, even though I went down wounded? And that's when I found out, like, I have a gift of making people better. I can move the needle, subtle needle, like this subtly, but I can still move the process and getting them to where they need to go. And I recognized that and realized that in 2011.
Yeah, I mean, you have a presence about you just on the day-to-day. Like, there's just no bad days with CB. Like, there never is. And I think I don't want to put anything on you, but I imagine it's partly shaped by the perspective that you've gained throughout your entire life. And, I mean, there's some great, shorts and documentaries on your story growing up. But to think about where you came from in Wisconsin to ascending to the top of the NBA, being an NBA champion, dominating the NBA for long stretches, for years, was that growing up like – obviously everyone has a dream. Every kid growing up playing basketball has a dream, and you were one of the top players in the state. But at that point, like, did you at all envision this for yourself?
Nah. I wanted to be alive. I'm 41 years old now, but my main mission and purpose was just to survive. Like, I had a child at the age of 14. I was in the streets heavy. You name it, I was doing it. I've been shot at. I done shot at people. I done did the whole shit. So it was like my survival ways were just like it could have went either way. And when I got in the relationship with the game of basketball, it just took me places that I never dreamed of. It took me around the world. It exposed me to things that I never thought I would see, and to people. So like that limit, that ceiling that you put on yourself, it like just really just opened up, and I started being exposed to so many other things. And it really just, it saved my life, one, and it changed my life forever.
When did that relationship start with basketball? For, seriously?
You know what? I was in Wales, a juvenile correctional facility, and I was doing 2 years. And I started playing basketball for fucking Canteen. And once I started playing the game, I just fell in love with it because it took me away from like the ignorant discussions that was happening amongst some of the inmates that didn't want to just like be a better version of themselves or try to be in these programs to get rehabilitated to go back out and be functional in society. So I just started playing the game all the time. And, I started using my imagination on the court. And when I got out, I linked up with a traveling team, and shit, kind of the rest was history. You know, I never looked back. I was just like, you know what, I'm going to give this shit a try and see what happened. Now, I know the streets will always be there. There's always different players in the game in the streets. But let me try this, you know, this straight and narrow thing for quite some time and see what happens.
It worked out pretty well.
Worked out pretty damn well.
It's crazy because adversity is obviously a relative term. So, for example, in my life, I always try to use the term basketball adversity, right? You know what I mean? Like I've seen basketball adversity, but like the type of stuff that you're talking about, I've never had to. That's real adversity. And there's levels to adversity, like there's levels to everything. At what point was it like, all right, so you link on with this traveling team? I know you went on to play at MCI, which is like a legendary program in Maine. We actually played in the same prep school league. I did a 50
you know, a little something.
Yeah, a little something. I think MCI shut down the program, though.
Shut it down.
Yeah.
The prep school program.
But when you were there, I mean, I don't know if you were like the pioneer, but ever since you were there, it was one of the best programs in New England. Talk about that year away of being able to get out of the circumstances that you were kind of surrounded by growing up.
So it was crazy because, you know, you become accustomed to recycled behavior in your environment, in your community. I got expelled, suspended / banned from pretty much every school in the state of Wisconsin. And we was trying to figure out how can I go somewhere and just further my education, one, but then two, like be on a national stage or possibly be in front of, you know, some of the big elite coaches where I can, you know, afford myself a 4-year scholarship at a university. And Max Good name kept coming up. They was like, he's a fucking drill sergeant. He's like, if you can make it through there, any Division I team would take you. And I was just like, fuck it, let's do it. Like this, they were like, it cost $30,000 to go there though. I was like, I was like, man, bro, I'm in the hood. I'm in the trenches. I ain't got no money. And the community rallied together, like cooking taco dinners.
Man,
that's crazy.
Barbecue plates. I mean, the whole hood, man, just came together. Long story short, got the money. Was able to go to MCI, and it was just like the best thing ever because I hooked up with this host family by the name of the Bakers, and they just showed me a different life. You know what I mean? They accepted me with open arms, showed me some different shit, had different conversations about education, about financial literacy, and not to say that my family never did, but, you know, our family was just in survival mode. You know, we was just trying to make it till tomorrow. And I was with a family that was talking about college and, you know, 30, 40 years from now, this is what we want to have. And, you know what I mean? They was kind of like building their own little institution, you know, within their family circle. So it was pretty dope to have that perspective.
It's amazing. It's just people are a product of their environment.
They are.
And so it's amazing that you have a kid like you who's growing up in an environment, product of that environment, they get placed somewhere else. And then look what you've become. I mean, it's remarkable, but it's sad at the same time. I mean, there's two sides to the coin, right? Where you got all this access to all these opportunities through basketball. You were so naturally gifted at basketball, and obviously you worked for it as well. But for all those kids that don't have that chance because of basketball, I think it's just it's tragic, and I just think it brings up this, you know, point of finding ways to tap into the community. And that's something that you've now made such a priority for yourself. And it takes people to get out and then do it like you have. And you've set that, you know, you've set that precedent, you've laid that groundwork. And I just think it's so admirable.
You know, I always say like seeing is believing. I think that phrase go, you know, underserved and unnoticed, and it's not talked about enough. But when you see something, or you see people from the same walk of life that you come from and they accomplish certain things, it's just like, thank God for social media in this capacity, in this way, that it's like, damn, like I see him doing that, or I see her doing that, and I know where they came from. I know their story. Testimony might be not identical to mine, but it has some components. And you feel like you can do anything. You really do. Like, and that's why I try to put myself out there, whether I'm tired or vulnerable or, you know, whatever the case may be, it's like, fuck it. Just say what it is so people know, like, it's okay to be that way. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to have flaws and, you know, still figure the shit out. And I think that's what gives people hope.
You mentioned the community you grew up in rallying around you and allowing you opportunity to go to MCI. And then, of course, alluding to kind of what Davis was talking about, once you reach the point of your career when you can then return the favor, what has that meant? I know you've done a bunch with, you know, affordable housing back in your communities and built up businesses. What has that meant to you to then, in some ways, you know, pay your respects back to a community that allowed you to go on to, you know, reach the heights that you've reached?
It's heartwarming. It really is. Like, when you think about some of the voids in the community that you experience, whether you're going to the community center every day and not having, you know, access to, you know, drinks and, you know, food or, you know, the proper balls to play basketball without the bumps and the lumps being in them and shit like that. And it's just like, wow, I could provide a different service. I could put up a computer lab here. I could plant, you know, buy land and put a garden where I'm teaching, you know, those traits. You can make sure that you help fund churches. You know, you can do giveaways where you give people a head start in their curriculum. You know, from an education standpoint, you create businesses where you employing people and, you know, teaching them traits where they can, you know, survive and provide for themselves forever. So those things have always been important to me, and now doing it in real time, it's just like, you know, damn, like things really come full circle. But you know, I always had that vision. When you asked me about the vision that I had, I was in survival mode, and I always was. But I always said, if I get put on, and the only reason I wanted more so I can do more, like, that's all I wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? So it's never been about me. It's just always been about correcting a generational wrong and a generational curse that I see that, you know, plague like a lot of communities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it helped you, or once again, I don't want to put this on you, but it helped you transition, I imagine, into your post-basketball career, in that, you know, one of the things I remember most of last year, you know, amidst the pandemic and everything that was going on, is I remember seeing your face on all the NBA TV stuff. Every time there was a social justice initiative, it was you pushing your platform and you pushing an agenda and you talking about the issues that have plagued, you know, communities in particular for generations. And now you putting your voice, you know, having the platform because of the career that you had, but also the person that you are. And I've seen you carry that on to our conversations that we've had in locker rooms as well. And it's just special to see somebody be a coach that, you know, you might think that it's X's and O's and this or that, but your mentorship goes far beyond, you know, teaching somebody how to go get a bucket.
Yeah, I appreciate that, bro. It's crazy because I've learned in real time as well. I know my personal experience, and, you know, I always ask myself why the system or things are the way that they are. And then also, like, with people that's close to me that don't look like me, but they love me for who I am and they don't see color. I ask them what's their perspective on, you know, things, and we have real conversations. So I've been serving on the Vera Institute of Justice. It's the largest reform board in Northern America for quite some time, for over 5 years. But during the process, I was preparing myself to be an active member on that board, and I educated myself. And the one thing that I realized is that we're the new ancestors, right? So we got to move accordingly. We got to, you know, think like we never thought before. We got to be hopeful. We got to, you know, share that dream that, you know, Medgar Evers and Dr. Martin Luther King and all them, you know, embodied, and all the sacrifices that they did sacrifice with limited resources. And now we have all these fucking resources at our fingertips. So what are we doing as a people, like, and as collectives? And the one thing I would say, you know, through tragedy, a tragedy with, you know, George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and countless others, I saw something I never thought I would see in my life. Over, you know, all our states here, but over 30 countries worldwide, people from all walks of life, young people come together and just rally around a universal wrong, and just said, like, this isn't okay. And I saw the world change in that moment. And I saw, like, private institutions. I saw institutions that would never get in situation that revolved around race. I saw them stand on the right side of justice. You know, you guys playing in the finals and seeing Black Lives Matter and group economics and all the things and addressing all the isms in the world. I was like, damn, things is changing a little bit, you know, and it has me really hopeful. And what I would say is, you having this conversation, not me, but you, and being educated is the dream. It really is. It's the dream that, you know, we all hope for. And I know that, you know, at some point, as my daughter right there, she's 17, you know, I think that in the very near future, you're going to see the change that we all dream and want.
I love that you acknowledge that, because amidst that whole process, particularly with the bubble, and obviously myself playing a minimal role in the whole thing, but as a collective, you know, us as players trying to push this conversation forward, there was so much noise from the masses around, all right, what is this doing? This is doing nothing. But we all felt, and I don't want to speak on anybody's, you know, own beliefs, but I think we all felt collectively like we were actually pushing something forward. Yeah. And it's validating to hear you say that, because, you know, sometimes when I think about just how massive the broken system is, it can feel hopeless. And this is coming from somebody who grew up in an incredibly privileged position, but at the same time, like, all you can do is just continue to be on the right side and continue to push it forward and acknowledge wrongdoings when they happen, and just try to have this conversation and push it to the forefront of everybody's, you know, day to day.
Yeah, y'all done it, man. Like, the new wave of athletes, they think differently. Obviously, you guys are making a different type of riches and generational wealth where you're afforded to have an independent opinion sooner than others, right? And I think that's huge. Let's not get that misconstrued or, you know, taken the wrong way. But I just think that when you have financial stability, you're able to think freely.
Yeah,
you're real.
It matters.
You're a free person thinking. You're not, you know, slave to nothing. So you can say exactly how you feel when you feel it. And to see young people, you know, expressing themselves, it's just dope, man. It really is. It's dope.
Yeah, you've alluded to you know, gaining financial literacy and some of the mentorship that you've done now. Obviously, I've now hopefully, or am starting to transition away from like just scratching and clawing to establish myself in this crazy profession, to now, obviously basketball stays the main thing always, but now I'm starting to look at, okay, I have new opportunities, new doors. As somebody who went through that similar transition, is there any like advice that you can give me as I move forward kind of in these next years, really?
Man, you know, I said this on a show I was on. Kobe made me think of this a long time ago. He was like, the roar of the crowd is not for you, it's for what you can do. And as soon as you can't do it, they'll be cheering for someone else. So it's like your basketball relationship will come to an end, you know? And that might be your first love or your second love. And you're going to have to learn how to love again. And the way you find that second love or your third love is, you know, finding what your next act is going to be and what you're passionate about. I fell in love with the process of being a serial entrepreneur. I really did, along with obviously being a father and great husband, all those things. But I wanted to, you know, build other things. I wanted to employ other people. And I realized that the game of basketball would be a vehicle to do that, you know? So I started taking those resources, you know, financially and just relationship-wise, and start building my own thing. And, you know, over time, you know, things just happened and momentum took over a life of its own. So what I would say to you is just, you know, make sure that you're in the right rooms. Learn how to read a room, create relationships. There's a lot of companies and things that's, you know, you look at IPOs and things like that. You know, create you a capital fund, start investing in late stage companies where you can't lose. You might not get, you know, 16 times your money, but you're getting 5 and 10, but you're learning the process of it.
Right.
And you're learning how money work. And then you go from there. But the one thing I will tell you to do is just make sure you save it first. Yeah. Make sure you save the money. Now you got to guarantee
it's gonna be checked. You don't need to worry about that.
Yeah. But you're doing that. I see the way you move and you ask questions and you ask the right questions. You know, all of you guys do. And, you know, don't ever feel like no question's a dumb question, but having a proper mentorship around you is very important too. Be around people that actually been through the process. You know, you follow a coach leadership or direction because you know he know what the fuck he talking about. So that applies in financial literacy and things like that and investing. It's like, I'm going to follow this guy because this guy's done it at a high level. He's making money and he's not trying to take anything off my table. He's just trying to enhance what I got.
You've spent time on this podcast giving him his flowers for, you know, the younger generation pushing things forward. Your daughter, who I'm sure is going to be leading the next generation. But I mean, you've clearly laid the foundation. Just listening to you give him advice, it's like, I feel like there needs to be more Caron Butlers in locker rooms.
True story.
Thank
100%.
You. Appreciate that, man. I think it's what it's all about. Like this, how selfish would I be just taking information that I've learned? Like when you talk about this basketball alone, I mean, fuck life. We're not talking about the whole life advice, but just talking about basketball alone. We talk about the wealth of knowledge, you know, playing with greats like Kobe, Dirk, you know, KD, you know, Chris Paul, Giannis now, the list goes on. You know, being coached by legendary Pat Riley, Spo when he was in the fucking video room, and now he's a fucking Hall of Fame coach. Like all these guys, Rick Carlisle, so many more, and not sharing that insight. I would be like the most selfish fucking dude ever. You know, not giving that wealth of knowledge. Like that's just greedy. And I like eating, but that's just greedy.
Thank goodness for my sake that you're not selfish, because I've certainly learned a lot. Davis, doesn't it seem like the world's against us from getting a good night's sleep this summer? You know, in the summer, it's always tough. It's hot out, especially down in Florida. It's humid. You know, it's just hard to come by a nice, good night's sleep, you know, really to get the full 8 to 9 hours that are necessary.
Yeah, Dunk, I am never a good sleeper in the summer. The heat just gets to me. But when you have a Purple mattress, you can sleep cool and comfortable no matter what the world throws at you. That's because only Purple mattresses have the grid. Its unique ventilated design allows air to flow through to help you sleep cool, even when it feels like 1,000 degrees out. And the grid is amazingly supportive for your back and legs while cushioning your shoulders, neck, and hips, no matter how you sleep. Unlike memory foam, which remembers everything, the grid bounces back as you move and shift, so you never get that I'm stuck feeling that you do with memory foam.
I actually can fully relate to that. Sometimes the memory foam, it feels like you're moving in quicksand, and the Purple pillow and the Purple mattress, it's just a revelation. It's nice and responsive, yet supportive. Fits nicely into the neck, the pillow does. It's a fantastic product. And check this out. You can try your Purple mattress risk-free with free shipping and returns. Financing is available too.
Purple is comfort reinvented. Right now, you'll get 10% off any order of $200 or more. Go to purple.com/longshot and use promo code LONGSHOT. That's purple.com/longshot, promo code LONGSHOT for 10% off any order, $200 or more. Purple.com/longshot, promo LONGSHOT. Terms apply.
Early on, when you're just starting to kind of familiarize yourself with, you know, you're talking about capital funds and late stage IPOs, all sorts of stuff. Like early on, is there like a fake it till you make it sort of thing? Like when you're first walking into a business meeting or a business negotiation, and like you're the same way with me. Like I always feel, and I haven't dabbled in the type of, you know, big money deals that you have, you know, it's all relative, but like I always feel like I'm always the basketball player, right? So like how do you break that down and get respected as like a business mind and somebody who wants to be an entrepreneur?
Well, the same way you do your scouting report on, you know, players. For instance, today we was talking about the kid Baines. We was talking about his tendencies and what he do, and everybody had a comment, right? Because they did their research. Everybody was like, I know this guy. If you're going to a meeting and you're talking about franchising in particular, or you're talking about a certain plot of property, parcel of land that you're trying to buy and trying to invest in, and the possibilities, you need to know the neighborhood, you need to know the community, you need to know what type of traffic coming in out of there, and what's the expectations, you know, for the next 5 to 10 years. Is it an opportunity zone? Like you do your research, and when you do your due diligence in that capacity, you go from there. And I think that you separate yourself from you know, the dumb athlete, you know, everybody be like, yeah, he's just a fucking athlete, you know, he's trying to make some money. You like come in from an educated opinion, and now you're visually looked at just differently. And it's like, oh shit, like I'm looking at Duncan, the businessman right now, suited. I
gotta give me some suits too, some custom suits, you know, look the part as well.
That's next.
I'm gonna transition a little bit. You referenced earlier Kobe in your book Tough Juice, which is a great read, by the way. He writes the opening to your book and talks about coming to Wisconsin when you guys are playing the Bucks and coming to see your family. Talk a little bit about your relationship with him, how he pushed you competitively on the court, and then also just from a relationship standpoint as well.
So all the things that before you had like these vets in the locker room that was just like superstars, you didn't get the best of both worlds. Either you had the coach with the wealth of knowledge, and then you might had one guy, but you never had like the superstar unless you was, you know, one of the 4 organizations that was just it at the time. And there was New York, obviously Chicago, LA always had one. And, you know, you throw any random other one out there. So I'm listening to Pat Riley all the time talking about disposition, your mentality, and your work ethic and all this stuff. And I'm like, damn, okay, I got it. But I was like, that shit is impossible to do like this. Can't go that hard all the time. So I get traded. Shaq comes to Miami. I go to Los Angeles. I'm with Kobe first day, press conference. He signs like $136 million. Never seen no shit like that before. So I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And the second he signed it, he's like, you ready to fucking black out? And I was like, what is a blackout? He's like, we about to fucking black out. Be here at 7 a.m. tomorrow. And I was like, damn, blackout, 7 a.m. tomorrow. And the next day, we started working out, and I realized what a blackout workout was. It was like you getting your reps in, you getting 50 shots from each spot, 100 makes off the move, you getting all this shit, then you get so tired, you see spots, you blacking out. And that was a blackout. And then guess what? You know, I got to tell you the rest. So after that first workout, and you do ones at the end, you go get you something to eat, you take about 3-4 hours to yourself, and you come back and you black out again.
Oh my God.
And we did this literally from free agency was always, the first week of July. We did that shit all the way to training camp. And I was just like, dude, it's different. But all this shit, like the sacrifices and when your motivation runs low, your discipline take over, all that shit that he was teaching us and instilling in us in the fabric of who we were as competitors, I saw it in real time in the best player on the planet. I was like, this dude is different. And, you know, every city we went in, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, he had high schools rented out to go shoot, like fresh from the airport, take him to a place where he can get his shots up till 4 in the morning. Then he comes in the hotel, and he never missed a film session. And it was just, I saw it at a different level. And I was just like, bro, he's different. But those things you apply to your life and you create your thing.
What's wild is that you talk about signing for 100 M's, and you hear blackout. A lot of people thinking like, I'm going to party.
Yeah.
Blackout.
People used to quit their job.
You know what I mean? Like,
up.
I'm going to black out tonight. You know what I mean? But he's talking about blacking out the next morning.
Yes.
In a workout. It's funny because I feel like Kobe's legacy, and obviously, you know, God rest his soul, has taken off to new heights. But everybody that I actually talked to that's been around him, I never had the pleasure to meet him or spend time around him, actually says that it's actually more than what's talked about. It's even crazier than what you, like the folklore that's been passed on. Like, it's actually crazier than what you think it is.
Yeah, it really is. From like this basketball shit is one thing, but just, I tell you, as a friend, as a brother of his, and he was a mentor of mine, till this day, I miss the phone calls and just the subtle, calculated messaging that he would just call me with. 5-minute conversations that felt like we was on the phone for hours, where he just had like pivotal points he wanted to make and specific call to actions that he wanted me to focus on. And I was like, damn, how did he take that much time out his day to make sure that he tell me this? It's like he really just mapped out the next 20, 30, 40 years of my life in that 6-minute conversation. And I miss that most, but I'm so glad that I got it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you try to apply that to the fabric of who you are, and you try to give that energy the same way he applied and gave it to me.
I need another, just anything you got, legendary Kobe story.
Man.
One that comes to mind.
We was in Charlotte. I never told the story. We was in Charlotte, and we was in the huddle, and he was like, the game was tied. It was only like 4 seconds, 3 seconds on the shot clock. And, you know, Rudy T is like drawing up all type of shit on the board, and he swiped it off again. And Kobe said, "Fuck that, just give me the ball right here." And he was like, "Whoever want to take the ball, I'm gonna be part of history." And Lamar was like, "I want to be part of history."
Go grab the ball. All right, give me the ball.
He threw that shit in, man. Kobe hit the shot, blouses game. It was just like, I was like, I looked at him. He was just like winked his eye in the moment, like, "Yo, just whoever want to be a part of history, just throw the ball in. That shit's over." But that was him. Like, right. That was just who he was, and OG was different, man. He was different.
Is there another player that you look back on that you had like one-on-one battles with it whenever you matched up with, you know, maybe personal for some other reason, or you just always felt like you guys were going back and forth? Another player in the league. Man,
I used to love playing against Paul Pierce because that's someone, like, he's not that much older than me, but I modeled my game after him. You know, when he got drafted, I think he went 10 as well in the lottery. And, you know, Coach Caron was like, "Hey, this is a guy that you got to watch. Like, look at his skill set. He takes his time, play at his own pace, all that shit." I was like, damn, okay. I'm going to look at him. I was like, shit, he only 3 years older than me. Like, I can't be looking at all his shit like that. But it was just like, at the same time, our games was really similar. You know, we was athletic enough, but we was just skilled, and we operated in the same spaces. And that was somebody who I just loved playing against. Like, we used to talk so much shit against each other, like just going at each other's throats, but it was always like a mutual respect, you know, from a basketball standpoint, and obviously, you know, when I seen him away from the court.
Yeah, it's the pace. I mean, I grew up watching Pierce a lot growing up in the Boston area, but then also watching you guys both had this ability to just always be under control and know exactly where your spots were on the floor. And unfortunately for me, I got to live that in practice when you're on the scout team.
Every once in a while.
Oh, still.
And, and we're playing ones, and like we're working on closeouts or something. You don't want to guard.
Oh, wait a minute. I got to hear more about this.
It's always like a rip through into kind of like a dribble post up into like a little shimmy fade, and he's throwing shot fakes in there, and it's a nightmare because he just knows, like, he thinks the game at just a different level. It's like moving at a different speed for you.
You just get into your spots. You know, when you've done it enough, and the same applies to you. Like when you're, you know, people think that they jamming you, or they, you know, they weaken you, or they pushing you baseline, they top blocking you. You're gonna get to your shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're gonna find a way to get to your shit because you're just a professional scorer or a professional at what you are a professional at. And I think that a lot of people just get misguided or misled when they think that they can really stop you from getting to what you made a living doing. I probably can't get it to it at the same pace anymore, but
you can still get to it.
I could get to it.
Oh, yes.
40 and up club, I'll tear their ass
Come on now. Are you still playing?
Here and there. I mess with it here and there. Yeah.
The best part outside of watching him just, you know, put people in a blender in one-on-ones,
including you,
including 100%, is the shoe game. Every day, it's a new pair of shoes.
That's my daughter, man.
And it's crazy. Shout out to Mia for that. It's crazy variety. And it's like he's pulling out stuff where it's like, I don't think you're supposed to hoop in those. And he's just out there not caring, like just still getting to it in ones, in like anything, retros all day, throwback LeBrons. Like, it is a crazy, every sort of Kobe. Crazy
bro, variety. You gotta realize, like, we grew up in the Chuck era, so like we wore Chucks on the concrete. You know what I mean?
That's actually crazy.
Yeah, like British Nikes, LA Gears, Patrick Ewing's, Chucks, like all those shoes, like dope shoes.
So you
colorful.
can hoop in anything, basically. If you can hoop in Chucks, you can hoop in anything.
Anything. You almost barefoot.
Right.
It's wild. Kobe's are the best basketball shoe ever created, in my opinion. I'll play on asphalt in Kobe's and can't walk the next day. I think it just goes to show how soft we are.
Yeah. If you're playing on tar in Chucks, I don't even understand how your body can but you just get used to it, I imagine.
Yeah, at some point you get used to it. And I'm gonna tell you, low key, like we got a staff full of hoopers. Like, don't sleep on Spo. Spo can play a little bit.
Every now and then he'll pull out a little hand or something.
Spo got some shit to him, man. Hey, he got us right. Him, Keith Askins, Stan Van Gundy. Those was like our skill development guys when I was with the Heat, and they was like one of the best staff groups I ever just been with.
No, the scout team, the Miami Heat scout team is legendary.
How are they doing in the NESCAC?
Oh man, that's a Division III conference that we both played in. I mean, it's just they're thinking the game at a different level. This is what I'm talking about. Like even in scout team stuff, like you'd think, whatever. Like even someone like AC can go.
AC get loose.
He can go.
He straps up still.
Like it's incredible.
Don't sleep.
I'm like, dude, you are too old to be sitting in a stance like this for a 2-hour practice, and he's in it the entire time. It's
AC
incredible.
Academy.
It's incredible.
Is it common for the staff to be this involved in an NBA practice?
Nah, it's not that common. But we actually like when we go over game plans and things like that. Coach would let us know, like, hey, how you feeling? You want to? Like, hell yeah, I work with him. Like, it's one of those things as a competitor, and like. Sometimes I think the messaging hits a little different when you're like, man, fuck, all you got to do is just go right and do this. And then you see someone at 41 or whatever, ain't in the best shape. You like, oh, shit, okay, I can do that. Like, it should be easy for me. I'm only 22, 23, whatever.
Yeah.
What are you, 27 now?
Yeah, I'm 20. I'm old, man.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But that's a big one for me when we're talking about, like, being in a gap or being at the nail and still getting to a closeout. Yeah. And I'm like, man, that's hard. And then I see AC do it, and I'm like, all right, I can't say anything. Like, I got to find a way to do it. All right, man. Well, we know you got plenty to do out here in Vegas. Plus, you got your daughter here.
Yeah, Mia's about to go spend my money just for the record. So put that out there.
Mia, I believe in you.
She laughed, but it's true. Shit is true.
We appreciate you chopping it up with us, taking some time. Super insightful conversation, and you're a legend in the flesh. So appreciate you joining us.
Appreciate you, brother. Hey, congrats too on that new money.
I appreciate that.
I'm trying to be like you.